Real estate is an excellent industry to enter into. The U.S. in particular is a great place to buy real estate, largely in part due to the country drafting laws and regulations to make it easier to buy real estate. The first way a person with very little money can enter the real estate industry is to do what many people do and what they call bird dogging. Bird dogging is a term that is named after the hunting dog that goes back and brings birds to the hunter. This is exactly what a person does who's trying to get into the real estate market. They can go find houses and deals for real estate investors. Real estate investors are always looking for deals, and you can find those deals. The option contract is a legal contract that will be great to help you bird dog for great real estate deals. An option contract is a legal contract that allows a person to have the option to buy a piece of real estate within a certain time frame. For example, you want to buy a house with a 90-day option contract. You don't have to buy the house right away. You can buy it anytime within those 90 days. And during those 90 days, the homeowner cannot sell the house to anyone else. It is yours alone to buy. Once that 90-day term period is over, the house goes back onto the market to sell to anybody. But for those without much money to actually purchase the house, the option contract is important because you can sell that option contract to an investor who would then buy the house. A well-written option contract will have what they call an assignment clause. That allows you to assign the option to anyone you want. You can find real estate investors at your local real estate investment association to find out what deals they like, and then you can go and find those deals for them. If you can't find a buyer, you can just let the option contract expire and you won't be locked in to purchase the property that you can't afford. This way, all parties win. This is just a way for individuals to get into real estate. Whether you have money or not, it's okay. This is just one of the many legal contracts that are available for you. Another one is a double closing, where you have two purchase and sale agreements, one with the seller and another with the investor. It is important to check the laws of your country, and particularly in the U.S., because all states are different. And a state may or may not require you to have a real estate license to do this. Another way to enter the real estate market is to use U.S. government vouchers. If no one in your family has ever had any significant amount of money, then you can use government vouchers such as the Veterans VA housing voucher, disability, Section 8 housing vouchers to really help you qualify for a home loan. They have programs for that. Your job is just to find out how you can actually take benefit of those programs. In addition, you can buy a multi-unit apartment or you live in one of the apartments and rent out the other remaining apartments. You can use a standard residential mortgage to buy up to 4 units because residential is considered 4 units and down. So the same type of mortgage you can use to buy one house, you can buy a duplex or a fourplex. What's so important to understand is that the future rental income of those units that you rent out can be used to help qualify for that mortgage to buy the entire apartment complex. Understand the laws and the rules you can use to grow your wealth for you and your family. Focus on maintaining good credit. If you're a young person or a foreigner in the U.S. with no credit, you can build credit with secured credit cards and secured line of credit. If you need to fix your credit, start making plans to fix your credit. You can download some of the free credit repair forms I have at globallaw.tv/contracts. And the main thing is that you really got to believe. You got to believe, have a plan, and take action. Create a professional presence. Give people a reason to treat you in a professional way and make your dreams a reality. You can have a website, you have a business card, and just make sure that when you're going to talk to people that you actually have a plan for how to actually persuade these people to actually sell you their house. When individuals are looking to acquire real estate, they should learn about some of the creative real estate strategies that beginners and small investors use. One particular way is seller financing. Typically in a real estate transaction, there are 3 parties. There's the buyer, there's the seller, and there's the bank. The buyer gets a loan from the bank pays the seller for the house, and the buyer makes a monthly loan payment to the bank. However, with seller financing, the seller becomes the bank. In seller financing, the seller owns the property outright and doesn't have to worry about paying a mortgage to a bank. Therefore, instead of having 3 parties, there are just 2 parties where the seller serves as the role of the bank. They create a contract where the buyer makes monthly payments to the seller, and the seller can ease into retirement with monthly payments. The seller is the bank and not the landlord, and doesn't have to worry about fixing anything. If the buyer stops paying, the seller can foreclose on the property just like any bank would. Seller financing is great for buyers because it allows the buyer to obtain real estate if he or she has bad credit or is self-employed and doesn't have the steady income statements to show. Now that the seller has become the bank, he can sell some of those monthly payments he receives from the buyer. This is called note selling. Note selling allows a person to sell the future rights of the income in order to get a lump sum of payments right now. For example, if a person is receiving $1,000 a month, that equals $12,000 a year. He can sell the rights to collect the $12,000 in exchange for a lump sum payment of $10,000 right now, for example. This can allow the person to use the $10,000 to do things such as make improvements or use it as a down payment on a new property. The buyer of the note benefits because he just made a 20% return on his investment. You can find buyers and sellers of notes at your local real estate investing club. Another way to finance real estate is to use a HELOC. If you have some equity already on a property you own, you can use a HELOC to potentially make a down payment on additional property. But you have to be very mindful of the dangers of financial leverage, because if you lose one property, that could potentially make you lose the other property because you just leverage the equity of one house to buy another one. Tax lien is another great way to acquire property. When individuals don't pay their property taxes, the city or state may sell the tax lien. Investors will buy those tax liens for pennies on the dollar, and with some legal maneuvering and time, the real estate investor can actually own the property once the right of redemption ends. The investor can rehab the property and rent it out, and by doing it with enough properties, they can create a portfolio and actually package the properties and sell it to another real estate investor. They can then use the profits from that sale to buy a similar type property by taking advantage of Section 1031. Or they can buy a small hotel, or they can use that money to start a tech center. There are many things you can do. Hard money lending is another great way to acquire property. Bernard Reese discusses this in this video.
Hard money lending, Jeremy, is the kind of loan that you'd get from a non-traditional financer. As opposed to getting a loan from a bank, you can get a private loan either from an individual that likes to lend their money out, or from smaller investors that are there to lend money when banks aren't ready to do so. So there are lots of folks out there that are lending money. They're getting a higher interest rate than the bank is getting. So they're getting a good return on their money, but they're financing businesses that otherwise wouldn't be financeable. And for business owners, small business owners that don't have the credit history, or they got to close on a deal quickly. You need quick financing. Banks have lots of red tape.
Real estate investors, like everyone else, has to learn how to work together as a team. Work with real estate agents, attorneys, and others to help make your deal a reality. If you don't have the money, that's okay. You can bird dog, or you can pool your resources with your friends to actually purchase a property. Pooling your resources with people that are of like interest and in the same industry as you is very important. You'll be able to split the cost, as well as you have a larger marketing budget. The downside is that you have to balance personalities and egos, but it's always worth it because it's always better to have 5% of potentially millions than 100% of basically nothing. This is also something that applies to pretty much everyone. If you're in a certain industry, find people in the industry that you can work together and turn something small into something big. That's always important. What 10 people can do is always better than what one person can do. Pool your resources and make your dreams a reality. You'll figure it out. Just find the right people. The real estate industry is a great industry to build and grow wealth. One of the legal strategies that you can use to protect your wealth is legal trust. When an investor owns property outright 100% and without a mortgage, placing the property in a legal liability entity such as the LLC is a great legal strategy. This can help the investor have a separate identity from the property. If something bad happens, only the assets of the house will be liable and not the investor's personal bank account and assets. But many times investors rent out property that still has a mortgage on it. And that's understandable. If you can make a worthwhile profit on your property by renting it out, it makes sense to do it. But oftentimes these individuals will place their property into LLCs to take advantage of those legal strategies and protection that an LLC has to offer. But they have to be mindful that most mortgages have a due on sale clause, meaning that if you transfer ownership to anyone else without a permission, including legal entities, the entire amount of the mortgage can be due immediately. This can be a person's worst nightmare because they probably don't have all of the money to pay off the entire mortgage. However, there may be some good news. Most banks, particularly large banks, won't enforce it as long as the mortgage is still being paid. So for practical purposes, you might be okay. But there's also a legal strategy you can use that involves legal trust to make certain that you are doing okay. The Garn-St. Germain Act allows individuals to place property into trust, and the banks won't be able to enforce the due on sales clause. So if you have a mortgage on a property, learn the legal strategies to navigate the law and build wealth. This trust is also called a land trust, and it gives you a level of legal separation because the trust technically owns the assets. Therefore, future lawsuits and creditors cannot come after you, the investor. In law, it is critical to understand that control, in some cases, is more important than ownership, particularly when it comes to trust. While the trust owns the property, you control the trust because a real estate investor is the beneficiary of the trust. You can still rent out the property, you can renovate it, you can rehab it, and you can even dissolve the trust anytime you want with the revocable land trust and put the property back into your name. Trusts are an excellent tool as far as estate planning because you can actually pass the land to your heirs. You can place the land in the trust, and once you pass away, your children or whoever the beneficiary is will receive the land. Estate planning is very important because you don't want to leave your loved ones having to take care of things that you could have. A sample living trust can be found at globallaw.tv/contracts. It is important to plan, and know that the law is on your side. It is your job to actually learn the law so you can use it on your side. The tax laws in the U.S. has allowed the real estate industry to be a premier industry to build wealth. The tax code in many ways was written by business owners and landowners. Therefore, it makes sense that it would benefit them the most. Both residential and commercial real estate benefit from the tax code. Pertaining to residential real estate, if you have a house or an apartment and you sell the house at a profit, you can exclude up to $250,000 of that profit from being taxed and $500,000 for married couples in the U.S. That's helping you build tax-free wealth when you follow the requirements such as owning and living in the property for at least 2 years. For commercial property, there are also tax law advantages. The first one is take advantage of the Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code. Section 1031 allows entrepreneurs to defer paying taxes on the gains they receive when they sell commercial property as long as they buy similar property. It is important that the property be of like kind. In addition, the property must be business or an investment property in order to receive the tax savings. The original intent of Section 1031 was to help farmers when they are swapping livestock, but eventually this provision became used for primarily real estate. The Opportunity Zone Tax Program is another real estate tax law incentive that was recently created by the Tax Cut and Jobs Act signed by President Trump. This program encourages private investment into low-income urban and rural communities. It has some similarities of the Section 1031, but with the Opportunity Zone, you can use more than just profits from real estate to invest into opportunity zones. The Qualified Opportunity Fund is the investment vehicle used to invest into opportunity zones. The Qualified Opportunity Fund is set up as either a partnership or corporation. Depreciation and cost segregation are also tools to help minimize your taxable income. Yona Weiss discusses this here.
So cost segregation is a really weird name that the IRS gave to allocating the stuff in the property into shorter depreciation lives. You can, with an engineer, you can allocate the stuff inside the building to a faster depreciation life over 5 years, and stuff outside the building, which would include land improvements like, let's say, landscaping or pavement or fencing, to a 15-year depreciation life. There's the building depreciates over 39 years, and the stuff in the building depreciates over 5 years, stuff outside the building, land improvement, over 15 years. So we're separating these assets within the one property to shorter depreciation lives. Well, what cost segregation does, it allows you to take a whole bunch, a huge amount of deductions in the early years of ownership of the property. So instead of waiting 27 years or 39 years to get all of those deductions, with cost segregation, you can actually utilize those deductions at an accelerated rate within the first 5 years of owning the property. So instead of just taking a $50,000 deduction, you can take a $300,000 deduction for the same property. You can go retroactively. Let's say you bought a property a few years ago and didn't take advantage of accelerating the depreciation. You can actually retroactively claim that depreciation and get it now in this year.
It is very important to understand the tax law benefits and how to use them to maximize your profits.
See, I came in the game without a dime or a chain.